Alright, so unless something surprising happens, or I become far more patient, or I learn how to code very quickly, I am just about, just out of packages to compile here. Final tally 4,735 packages, none of which are graphical. Except some are N curses, which means that you're playing in the shell with ASCII text, pretty much. It was a combination of things that brought me to this stop. It may be that I just need to learn more about patch source, but there's a certain level of enough is enough, and too much is too much. I kind of already did this already, but right now, just every single dependency that I want to build is not building. They are pretty much stopping with just odd things that are happening. FFTW, that's just, there's only a couple dependencies on FFTW, but it just, during the build stage, it tries to create links, and there's no real, as far as I could see, I did see a setting for hard links in the make file. I switched them all to CP-R. Changed all the settings to what it was ported over to BOS, so I changed every BOS mentioned to Haiku, and it still has broken links in a build. It's just getting ready to start the build stage. All the small parts have compiled and they're all sitting there, and fortunately the compile script will, if I recreate the links, it'll just delete the links and recreate the broken links. Python just doesn't really completely build correctly. I found out today Perl can't be built with threads, and so some of the packages for Perl that won't install, which is a small amount, I still got a lot of Perl packages, they'll build, but they won't install because it needs a Perl that supports threads. And try turning it on. I guess, I could try to, there are some patches in Haiku Porter that I could try to see whether that's going to result in threads, but I looked at them and I didn't see anything that looked like it was going to cause it to build the threads, but then again, I'm not a coding expert, I got NASM to build. That was probably the last one I built today, and there was someone that was on one of the last emails from the Haiku ports mailing list, or at least in the last 4 months of the handful that have been in there. Some guy was trying to compile NASM as a part of getting OpenOffice ported over to Haiku, but he wanted help, and it was a long time ago. I built it, and it was Oliver Tep's patch that allowed it to actually build. Otherwise, that didn't build. But everything that wanted NASM now wants Open, or it's the same one I was talking about yesterday. I don't know. I think it's OpenSDL, or I don't know. Might as well look. It almost doesn't matter. Well, all the emulators that wanted NASM now want SDL. I know there's recipes in Haiku ports for that. just I'll try to explain what I think's going on here. But when I try to build it just locally here, it just literally does not find. Well, it tries to build eSound first. And I think I read somewhere in a patch that eSound actually won't build on our system. You know, eSound actually was ported over to BOS, but when I did the search for the BOS and changed it to the Haiku, that didn't solve anything either. It seems like we literally have no audio headers that are in the POSIX directory. Or one's called audio file, and eSound isn't looking for that. And I don't know if Alza is, but anyway, I don't know why SDL wants to use eSound first. It's just doing that. And there was at one point earlier that I tried, Package Source has some options, and you can try other sound bases, but I just wasn't able to get any of them to build for SDL. What it seems like is happening, in some cases, we are all caught up with patching, like Mesa. We're all caught up. But that's a rare circumstance, at least in my opinion, from what I've seen. Seems like most of our patches that we have or recipes are actually won't work with the newer stuff. So, like, for example, or at least when I try it natively, I don't know what magic, because these were just errors, you know. Just odd things, like Pixman, it can't find library PNG. Got the Flex rebuilt, I rebuilt, reinstalled library PNG, so it's not the Flex issue I was having, it's not the zlib issue I was having. But for Haiku ports, the version of Pixman they're using, and I guess I can just look and see which one that is. There's probably a reason why it's the version. Let's just look. Then okay, so I think Pixman is in X11 libraries. Yeah. So that one is at 0.32. There is a master patch for this, but that master patch has already actually been brought into Pixman. Because, yeah, so effectively there is no patch at this stage for Pixman. And one would think if everything was good, because there's nothing else, you know, this was, what, Pixman 0.19.4. All people were doing was changing a line inside, or adding a line inside the configure AC to look for library root, which is now, it's now inside the Pixman. Pixman has that in its own source. What version of Pixman are we at? Or are they at? So Pixman, the current version of Pixman is 0.32.4, and we have a patch for 0.19.4. So I don't know what happened at 0.20, but perhaps it stopped linking at 0.20, and that's why people haven't done anything with it lately. I don't know. I just don't know. The other patchless package just had a recipe, which basically is a make file, as far as you know, was FFTW, and that was having the linking problem in the build process that I already mentioned before. Um, but specifically, it's actually that. Even though it was ported over to BOS, you go search, you switch. The only thing that I haven't tried that at least are recipes. I think there are patches for glib1. Ruby and PHP and Glut. Really, I've already got that patch. It's just that now package stores just can't figure out how to actually install it. Don't know why. Maybe it's trying to make hard links, and maybe this part of the hard link thing is not overridden by the package tool setting that I've set to make it always do soft links. It just doesn't work. There are a few patches here and there. There's a patch on the Cairo mailing list, and I'm looking at my list of basically showstoppers. I scratched NASM off and I replaced it with SDL basically. For audio, ALSA, they're not finding any headers that have audio capabilities. There's got to be some headers there. So basically, I'm at a point where if I were to, I'd have to have programming skills to move forward. I mean, real programming skills, not. The only thing I've been able to build are things that just build or are close to being built or someone else got them to build. And that's it. And so, or got lucky because, the BOS fixes from 2003 still work in 2014. That was the case with zlib. But it's not always going to work that way. And so I've got a pretty good build of Python 27, but not perfect. It's got issues. A pretty good build of Python 34, but it has issues. Perl that doesn't have threads, so there's a few packages that depend on a Perl module called GD, otherwise those won't build. So we're pretty much stuck for the packages that people actually want to use. Unless we get someone to actually come in that not only knows how to port apps, but also knows how to program in a variety of programs. We don't have a chance. Or there's just the people that in our community that are able to program and patch. There's obviously not enough of them to get us to the point where there are so many patches out there that Firefox is just a matter of time until it comes. So we got things like NetSurf and Qt ports, but I think the reason why people are going to Qt is because, well, they just can't figure out how to patch the stuff that's out there today that's newer. And most of these packages are just basically recipes of a lot of various things. So, there's nothing I'm going to be able to do. I could try some things. I might get lucky a few times. But that's about it. I've already done a pass-through with all these categories. And on the smaller ones, when I do pass-throughs to see what the errors are, it's just a grind. So at the end of the day, all these errors, if the error is based on a dependency, when you finally break through the dependency by patching those things, then you still are left with something that won't build because it has undefined references, a missing header, can't find the local headers that the source comes with, the links break during the build process, and I'm not talking about linking the binaries at the end of the process, I'm talking about during the process. I had a few cases of that. um, less than featureful builds of popular programs. And it leads, I can only suspect that the broken links in the build process have to do with hard links. If I were better at programming, I'd probably be able to figure out what part of the build process is making hard links and dig in and patch it to death. But I don't have those skills. I thought I'd found where it was making those links, but apparently I didn't. So multimedia is not building at all. So we don't have a lot of apps being made for the operating system. We have even more patching than we would have had to do with BOS, because there were times that BOS would go with what was popularly used and not just stick with POSIX. So where X11 used to build, now we have the Sunlit issue to work around, which I've been able to deal with before. And a lot of the issues are repetitive. There's this UINT32_T thing that keeps coming up. And I guess I could work through there's some other things that I could build, but each one of these is going to be a frickin' grind to work through. And who knows how many different pieces of, I'm only seeing the first error when the build fails, and there's a lot of apps. There are a lot of apps. But we're still, if we can't figure out how to patch things, we're still in a situation where we don't even have anything really all that noteworthy that comes out of these builds, even though I got like 4,000 here. 4735. So what you're looking at is the way this has been built. You're looking at an OS that could really only be worked on by really rare high-level Unix hackers from days gone by. We're talking about people that could almost be famous or have written books, to be able to actually help out and get our operating system moving because of the choices that we have made with, our strict POSIX adherence in the headers, or strict choice to, re-implement the B exactly, and then to throw in a package manager without read access or write access to the hard disk. That when it builds stuff, you can, it places things in a package directory and places the library further up in the build structure than you normally would find if you wanted to compile it. It kind of takes away the whole option of compiling anything manually. And it makes it difficult to get things packaged manually. If we had 5,000 Unix hacker experts, we'd have a very nice operating system, but we don't. So what we've ended up doing is, in our quest for fulfilling what our mind's eye has told us is the perfect OS, we've ended up stifling out people that could actually pitch in, and I've said this so many times, to get to the end result. I don't know. I might surprise myself. I may have some kind of breakthrough. I might find something. Who knows? But it's probably going to require that I get some help from somebody to help me figure out and I don't know if I have anybody to ask. So I've had, it's a huge time commitment, even if things are going well, and they have to go well in the first place to be able to have a viable, basically, we don't have a viable, I don't think we have a real viable POSIX system to work with, that is that is built in such a way that it's going to result in a healthy ecosystem of, combined with the way the structure of the environment is. It's nothing against people that have made the effort to collect patches. It's nothing against the people that have made the package manager. The end result is, if we had a bunch of packages, it would be absolutely beautiful, wonderfully smooth, wonderful package manager. If we had the apps. The problem is that it stops us from making the apps that we need at the low level, and there aren't enough skilled people that want to work on this OS, apparently, by what we've seen, or what I could see the end result is, to allow us to have what most users want in a desktop. So it kind of just, I feel that we've shot ourselves in the foot. Don't know if any of the ideas will change. I don't even know if the message will get out. I'm certainly not a porting expert, but you don't want to hear this from a porting expert's going to tell you, oh yeah, I could deal with these. I can get these all built eventually. But it's not really about that. It's about manpower and being able to use a bunch of people, or a bunch of people working together as a team to build, as a community, to build this stuff, because we don't have a large staff of people that are trained in and day out. All they do is packaging and creating recipes and making sure all the depends and the requires and the copyrights and everything are in there, and know how to figure out how to get something like FFTW to compile. We would need a lot of people to start with, to get us started, and then then after most of the apps get ported, of course, you wouldn't need the experts anymore. But we just don't have enough people. So we got a couple good builds, couple important builds, but it doesn't really all add up. And looking at the Diger's patches for Qt, and I've done a couple attempts to build, and it just doesn't build. Even SpiderMonkey doesn't build with the patches that he gave. Don't know what to say. A lot of things did build, but it's kind of cool. But Samba won't build, so it feels something's got to change, or I really do. As I've said before, I think this is going to atrophy. We need the file system to be writable. We need, I think we need better documentation for Haiku Porter. It's a good tool. A lot of people use Gentoo. There's nothing wrong with using Python to compile packages. I'm just not used to it, but it doesn't make anything wrong with it. It wasn't really apparent. At least, I'm going to try to build something now that I know how to. I read an email today, and there's a chance that there's actually a way to build maybe star from a local repository, because I'd like to test it out before I submit my patches. If that, if someone else wants to submit them, that's fine. I'm not here to put any roadblocks on anything. I'm just trying to figure out what the hell's going on, because 2008 I fired this thing up and looked, and I saw, okay, well, this is alpha. But the environment looks very promising. It's really just so unfortunate. I know the system is able to produce sound. It's just getting into the POSIX apps. So and for in my opinion, since we aren't getting commercial vendors to show up, probably be a good idea if we made some of those sound headers, and worked on it. So we would have eSound compiled in BOS, supposedly. I mean, there were settings in there for it. Maybe it was an attempt that failed. Who knows? But you get nothing graphical out of this. That's POSIX. Of course, I'd have to build X11, and I think the reason why I don't have X11 is because the build failed, and all we really have are patches for a very old X11. I'm not talking about just library. X11 has a lot of parts, not just library X11. The X executable isn't working. You can download an older version of BBits, but to be stuck in 10 years behind, because basically we just we don't have our current day version of Martin Brown. We need like 5 of those people, or 10. And that's one thing, it seemed like there were people that just wanted to, just for the hell of it, just wanted to see if they can get things to build back in those days when BOS was around. Now people aren't, I don't know. It seems like a miracle that even Linux worked out, really. We need a lot more people that are interested in coding. And the thing is, the need isn't there. Back in the day, Unix's future was questionable, so it was actually necessary for the community to figure out how to code, and there was a lot of people that needed to get out of Unix and get into Linux, and they learned. Very large, but we don't have that. So if I come back on and make another video, it means I've had some kind of breakthrough. Otherwise, this is it. I don't even know if I want to make an effort to get my notes out there, because some of them have I've got whole 100 pages of list of things that say what the undefined references are, or what header is missing for a certain package, or what it depends on when it failed on, or what it used to depend on when it failed the first time. Those might be useful for some people, but it's just a lot of tedious work, and there's a lot of better options out there. This would just be, to me, in my mind, this would be like a second option, compared to Linux or NetBSD. But all right, so that's it. So I may or may not come back. All depends. And I don't think it looks very good right now.